Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, Dr. Bronner's Big Ideas. Also, the V-Team takes a look at the state of the state. And lawmakers continue to gorge on Hubbard's bologna.
I can't believe I ate that whole thing.
You ate it, Ralph.
I can't believe I ate that whole thing.
No, Ralph, I ate it.
I can't believe I ate that whole thing.
Oh, you ate one too. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V.
The Voice of Alabama Politics. With your host, Bill Brett. Now, the #1 political show in Alabama, The V.
Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and as always, I'm joined by the V-Team. Welcome all.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Governor Bentley this week gave his annual State of the State address. We have some clips. Let's take a look at those. And Jonathan Barbie was there for reactions.
On Tuesday, Governor Robert Bentley gave his annual State of the State address. And in this address, he released his Great State 2019 plan. This plan will focus on education, reforming Alabama's Black Belt, and building new prisons.
Today, we launch an ambitious course of action aimed at fundamentally changing Alabama, opening doors of opportunity, clearing the path to prosperity, and solving decades-old problems. Today, we launch Alabama's Great State 2019 plan. Our strategic 3-year course of action will set in motion things that will help our people to be educated and trained. It also will connect and construct basic opportunities for all of our citizens. This bold course of action will guide us through the next 3 years. It will address long-standing problems from health care to prison reform with cost-effective, common-sense solutions.
I was on hand after the address, and we got some interesting reactions.
He mentioned a lot of things that he was interested in, but didn't give a lot of the details of how we're going to fund them. We can help him with that. This pre-K initiative, we can pay for that with a lottery. We have a lottery bill that we're going to put into a Hope Scholarship Fund. We're negotiable. Part of it can go to a pre-K program.
I like the plan on the prison system reform. We've been talking about ways to modernize our prisons for years. His plan tonight and working with the commissioner, I think, does that. And it's ambitious, but I think it solves a big problem in the state of Alabama.
You know, we're already talking about cuts to the general fund budget. Last year we raised over $86 million in taxes. I think the lottery is something that the Democrats have been pushing for quite a while now. It's an answer to some of the money woes that we have in the state.
The strategy about workforce development and education, very exciting to me because absolutely that's critical to the state's future. The bond issue, I got not a whole lot more of the details about that because I don't know how expensive that is and the financial part, but conceptually he's right that we have to educate and create a workforce. I'm all about that. There's a lot of good things in there, but devil's in the details always.
Yeah, we are very excited in the department. The governor has laid out what you rightly called a bold plan that we think has the potential to completely transform the Department of Corrections into a modern, state-of-the-art department that all Alabamians can be proud of.
Well, I think the governor talked about an aggressive, forward-looking plan and idea, and I think that's important. You know, we have to look behind us to see where we've been. We have to be real in the present with what we can do.
One thing we found in common is they all believe that Governor Bentley's plan is a bold move. However, the Democrats want to fund it with a lottery, and the Republicans, well, they're not quite sure about the bond issue to repair the prisons. I'm Jonathan Barbie, reporting for the Voice of Alabama Politics.
Everyone seemed to agree that Governor Bentley offered some bold plans. Beth, you were there. What do you think?
I think the governor's the best Democrat we've got right now. I mean, he pretty much endorsed the House caucus's agenda.
You know, he might take offense to that.
Okay, wait a minute. Everybody is for giving the teachers a pay raise. That's Republican, Democrat, Independent. And then as far as our prisons, correction systems, particularly Tutwiler, that's almost a federal mandate because of everything that's going on there.
Give it.
But some of the other things, I'll give you credit. But those two, everybody across the board.
The governor did have a good dig at Senator Marsh with the no strings attached pay raise. You know, that was definitely a clear dig at Senator Marsh.
And that string got a drop last week.
Right, exactly.
Right, yeah.
Well, I think it was interesting. He's really going after education and healthcare too. And I mean, I thought he was going to come out and say, expand.
It was looking like Medicaid expansion for a minute.
Because he keeps talking about doctors in rural areas, rural hospitals.
Well, but they've got Medicaid expansion on the table.
Well, I mean, you know, we met with Dr. Bronner the other week. He said, we've already blown $3 billion. But I was very interested in his college initiative. We're offering free scholarships.
You mean Senator Sanders' plan? The socialist agenda that the governor's now pushing.
He's gone from being a Democrat to a socialist.
Come on, face it. We're looking at a lottery here. That's what we're headed down that road already. These packages have to be paid for.
Right.
The Democrats brought it up in the comments. I've talked to President Pro Tem Marsh during this last week. He said twice any option to fix the general fund budget he would entertain. We're looking at a lottery.
I mean,
That's
not
what
right. The lottery is the only thing that is plausible to most voters out there.
Yes,
and
makes
you've got
sense to
two
them.
different ones. You've got McClendon's, you've got Ford's, you've got other things floating around, and I think that's a.
You ask people if they want a gas tax or a lottery, what are they going to say?
Well, they also say they want gaming. But we're going to get into that later on.
We're not going to get that right now, I don't think.
But I think Bentley, I mean, nobody thought it was bad ideas. It's just as we all
Where's the money?
Great ideas.
And look, you've got the Democrats saying, here's a concrete elective way to fund these programs. And Bentley's plan is let's borrow more money. That's how we got in this plan in the first place. We're in the hole, trying to beg, borrow, and steal to get the bills paid. If we do all of this on a bond initiative, those bills come due too. You can't just keep kicking the can down the road.
Well, we cannot be known. I mean, we're becoming a state of borrow and spend Republicans. You know, this is what we have accused Democrats of doing.
And a lot of times it's borrow, spend, and don't pay back.
Yeah, well, why pay it back if you don't have to?
Borrow, spend, and steal from education.
Well, that is on the table.
I don't think that'll happen. It's on the table. It was on the table last year. I don't think that's going to happen.
I know it's not going to happen in the Senate. I asked President Pro Tem Marsh directly about that. He said that there was no appetite in the Senate for taking anything from education or for taxes.
Let's face it. If it's not going to happen in the Senate, it's not going to happen.
No,
it's not. The House passes any and everything.
Yes.
The Senate is where the rubber hits the road. So if it's not going to happen in the Senate, it's not happening.
I want to do real quick. I want to talk about the circus came to town this week. Everybody was a clown. What did you see at the State House, Claire?
I saw a lot of people, a lot of friends, a lot of House members, a lot of senators, but there was a lot of interesting stuff on the fifth floor, you know.
Yes,
well,
of course.
They were. It seemed to me that it always is the case. Everybody's happy and friendly.
It's the first day back to school. You're excited. You're in your new clothes, and then you realize you all hate each other.
And people come for the first day and the last day. So there's a lot of people, public interest people in lobbies. They come for the first day and the last day, and you never see them throughout the session.
And a lot more media also. I mean, those press rooms were packed.
But do you know, I think it was very ironic. I had 3 or 4 people that came up to me, and I guess around close to 11:30 on Tuesday, they came across the loudspeaker. Now this is the circus, and a female voice came over and said, all people should be off the 5th floor except for elected officials and staffers.
Since when has that ever happened?
The speaker obviously did not. It's never happened as far as I know. And so anyway, there were no individuals that could be on the 5th floor before they went in session.
Wow.
Did y'all not hear that?
No. Whose house is this, by the way?
Really?
Is this the people's house or is this
It's not
Mike
the
Hubbard's
people's
house?
house.
Who's in charge?
We got about 1 minute left here.
I didn't mean to throw a bomb at you.
You did. Of course, it's his house.
For now.
He found the money to pay for it. Senator, you visited with, Susan, you visited with Senator Pittman. The general fund is going to be another battle, isn't it?
It is going to be another battle. And Senator Pittman pointed it out once again very clearly. The only responsibility of this legislature during this session is to pass both budgets, balance them, pass them, and get the governor to sign them. And that is what he's committed to doing.
I mean, they're about $240 million in the hole. I mean, where's this money going to come from?
We've got to do away with the BIR. That's the thing. I mean, the rule is you have to pass the budget first, so they have to do a 2/3 override to get anything passed. And we got to do away with that and make them put the budget as their first priority.
Well, we're still broke in the general fund budget.
We're still broke. There seems to be no appetite to go in education, but they said they'd be surprised if they did.
Okay, we're going to leave it right there. You're watching The V. We'll be right back with more news and analysis.
You better sit down. I've actually found one federal program Obama wants to cut. Defense spending. He wants to weaken our military. I've got a son in Afghanistan right now. He deserves our support. Richard Shelby's a big voice fighting Obama's cuts, keeping us safe.
Richard Shelby stands up to Obama every single day.
I'm Richard Shelby, and I approve this message.
Welcome back to The V, the voice of Alabama politics. A very complicated story. It's taken us about a month to tell. Most of it, still not all out there, is the $47 million software failure known as STARS. This caused great havoc throughout the state as vendors were not getting paid, interagency payments were not being made. Hundreds of millions of dollars were lost in a software limbo. This raised questions of the legitimacy of the contract. Susan, you went through hundreds of pages of contracts from going back to 1982. Tell us what you found.
I found a lot of information. What we were told initially, the reason that this was a no-bid contract was because they had an existing agreement with a vendor, and this was just an upgrade that was available from back when they signed the contract. The contract was signed in 1982 to develop a COBOL-based language program to be installed on IBMs. Okay, that's fine. They had that license for 15 years.
Would have expired in 1997.
It would have expired in 1997.
Well, actually, it did expire.
It did expire.
Antiquated, wouldn't you say?
Just a little antiquated. But now here's the interesting
what's an
part.
IBM?
The last amendment they signed to that Constitution was in 1994. So when that license expired, they were no longer contracting with this vendor.
Contract? You said Constitution. You meant contract.
I meant contract. I'm sorry. They have they have amendments to the contracts.
Right.
Sorry. They have amendments to the contracts. The last one was 1994. The next one was in November 2012 when Rex McDowell signed a license continuation agreement that expires in 2012. We've got a 17-year lapse in a contract that they're calling an ongoing maintenance agreement.
Now, the Attorney General ruled that even if you keep paying on something like that, if you don't have a contract, you got to rebid it.
No, especially when we go from IBMs to PCs and Macs. Now, what is it, IBM? Do we even have those in the State House anymore?
No, we don't have those anymore. Those systems don't. In fact, in the software paperwork or the presentations from CGI to the state, it said that the vendor no longer supports the old system, that they can't get a support for it.
They can't maintain it or support it at all.
Here's what's interesting about the Rex McDowell signature on November 2012 that extended the license agreement to 2017. They turned around in January 2013, and Marquita Davis signed the Medicaid part of the STARS program to be followed in September by the all agencies.
So and then it lists 9 pages of software that had to be bought. I mean, Claire, what's your word for this one?
Egregious.
And it's clearly off-the-shelf software. It says so in the presentations. It says so in the contracts. And any off-the-shelf software, by law, by the Constitution, has to be bid.
It looks fishy, doesn't it, Beth?
It does. I mean, it's just one of those things where even if you think this might be okay, go ahead and cover your six. Watch what you're doing. Go ahead and get it bid. If these are the right people for the job, they'll get the contract. We'll be right where we started, and we wouldn't be talking about it.
Right. Well, there's a clause in there that says if there is, this is, or not necessarily a clause, but there's verbiage in there that says if it's the sole source of this code, then yes, you can use them, but you've got to show that somebody else doesn't have it too.
Other companies that
and there's no other bids to compare it to say
it's just been this has been floating around and been an issue for the last 3 months, and nothing has They won't give out the public information. It just smells really bad, once again, and it's making the governor look bad, and I think he's been in the dark.
One of the interesting things we can report is, they originally told us we could have the contract. Then they told us we could not have the contract because there was a non-disclosure agreement.
After they let you see it, though, right?
Right.
They let you physically read it.
And we paid for the copies. And then this week we were notified by the governor's office that we could pick up the contract. I guess somebody who actually knew the law got involved. Or it may have been that Claire scared them last week. I'm not sure.
That's what we're here for.
Every now and then that happens. That's what we're here for.
Well, I tell you, it's a complicated story. Something that was not complicated is Susan and I sat down with Dr. David Bronner, one of the smartest and fun to be around guys you'll ever meet. He's the head of the RSA. He talked about a lot of things, but he also, Claire, he talked about some of his ideas how to move the state forward, and they included a lottery. They included raising property tax, which nobody's going to like that. And he also talked about gaming. But, he said, I've been saying this for years.
Well, and Dr. Bronner is a very entertaining, delightful gentleman and has done a lot for the state of Alabama. But I agree. I mean, I think raising property taxes, I don't think that's going to happen in my lifetime. But as far as the gaming, I think that is clearly something that the people of the state of Alabama would like to have the opportunity to vote on. They've been trying to do this since Bob Riley was governor, and they've clamped down on it. And I think we saw polls last year that said people really want to do it, and particularly the lottery. And we've got a Democrat and a Republican version of those floating out there. And I think that, just like I've heard people say, well, Georgia, everybody sends their money to Georgia and all these other places. Why not we have it here and let our citizens and kids and whatever, the general fund, whoever takes the money, let us benefit from it.
It's something Dr. Bronner pointed out that was very important. I know a lot of people are really nervous, and we've discussed it on the show about how open-ended this lottery bill is that Senator McClendon has issued. But here's the thing. That's the way it's passed in other states. Any other states that have tried to pass one that had all of this, it goes here and it does it, and all these instructions, they're not passing. We've tried that in the state of Alabama. It hadn't worked before. But this is what has worked in the other states that were able to get lotteries and gaming.
Then you pass that, and then you pass some enabling legislation.
Right.
That's what you do.
Yeah. And I thought it was interesting, Beth, that one of the statements he made is if we funded Alabama's football team or Auburn's football team the way we fund the state, they would have used equipment, no practice field. I mean, really, think about it.
Right. And I don't know that the property tax is the way to go to fund education, but linking it to sales taxes, which is really where it's coming from now, that's just not feasible because it puts our education system at the hands of economic increases and economic decreases. So when you had the recession, our education went into proration because we didn't have any sales revenue to generate funding for education. So we do have to find a way to do that. A lottery is an elective measure, and I think people on both sides are ready to talk about it, even the people who are against it, so that we can shut up and move on if it fails.
I know the Senate's willing to entertain the idea.
The other thing, Susan, you remember he said, and I quoted him in the article, he said on the gaming issue, he said it wasn't fair for them to shut down Milton McGregor, and 6 miles away or however far away it is, they're letting somebody else do it. He said it was not fair that the Fort Creek Indians could do it, and yet Milton McGregor can't do it. Compelling argument, I think.
And Fort Creek's a different situation, though. I mean, they've got the protection of being on a reservation.
But the IGRA law says that they cannot operate machines that are illegal in the state. If they're using the same machines as Milton McGregor, then those machines have to be legal by federal standards.
Couldn't do it. You're right.
Well, you know what I saw?
You're both right.
You know who I ran into at the State House on was it Thursday or Wednesday? Wednesday. Former coach Pat Dye.
Did you?
I did.
He's out there plugging.
He's out there plugging for gaming again. I just thought I'd let y'all know. I ran into my old coach again.
There we go.
He's working it.
We like Pat Dye.
Oh, we do. He's a legend.
We're going to leave it right there. You're watching the V, the voice of Alabama politics. Roll Tide.
War Eagle.
All right.
Are you a Second Amendment supporter? Do you believe in the right to bear arms and defend yourself and your family? If you answered yes, then join the second annual BamaCarry Firearms Freedom Rally on Saturday, February 13th at the Bessemer, Alabama Civic Center. Special guests will be Fox News contributor and firearms instructor Jan Morgan, State Auditor Jim Ziegler, and many more. Lunch is included and vendors will be on hand with the latest products. Get your tickets now at BamaCarry.org.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. Beth, this week, Speaker Hubbard had some really bad news, and then he got a little good PR news. But all in all, when Judge Walker ruled, he ruled on two of the very big motions in this case. It was a lightning strike against Hubbard.
Right. I think that Judge Walker is trying to push through these motions because he said that's the one thing that could delay the trial at this point. So he's trying to push through and just say, yes, no, and just get them ruled out. I think the biggest thing is the constitutionality of this ethics law, because that has such far-reaching implications beyond just this trial. If that's unethical, we've got some problems. If that's unconstitutional, we've got some problems to go back and really quick clean up the mess. And I don't know that I want this group that's in here right now rewriting an ethics law right now.
Well, I mean,
wouldn't either.
No, that doesn't sound like much fun.
No, you don't want to put Jack Williams as the head of it either, or Phil Williams, either Williams.
Senator
Phil
Williams.
But Susan, I mean, this was a big deal. Mike had said that he had a U.S. constitutional right to lobby, and that our constitutional ethics law was unconstitutional.
Right. And every argument, and there were more than just two, there were 5 or 6 arguments as to how this was unconstitutional. Judge Walker outlined each one of them. He explained each one of them. He explained his decision. And of course, the very last word in every sentence was failed. It failed every test they tried to put at it.
I mean, how does he think he can lobby when you resign from the House or the Senate? You're usually banned for 2 years. So how does he think he can be in there and lobby?
Well, that to me was the most ridiculous thing that he did. And
it's all about money, honey.
Showed he was just a mercenary. That's all he is a mercenary. He'll do anything, say anything to get away with his deal.
The other important thing was the selective prosecution.
Right.
Judge Walker denied that. He said, no, this is not.
He was not targeted.
He wasn't
at all.
Right. You have to be targeted based on a protected class for that to apply, and from what I understand about it. So for it to be selective prosecution, it would have to be if they were only targeting members of the Black Caucus or only targeting Christian members of the legislature or only targeting somebody specifically because of a protected class.
And he said that in his order.
Right. Well, and it just, that was a big deal. Now, the only thing we have left of any merit is prosecutorial misconduct. This Tuesday, Baron Coleman, a former colleague of ours on this show, an ardent, I actually would call him a nemesis of Hubbard's.
Right.
He came out this week, filed an affidavit that basically accused Matt Hart of giving him privileged information, of giving him information that was possibly before the grand jury. And he said he initiated a whisper campaign to defeat Hubbard using information from Matt Hart. Claire, you were not happy to hear this.
It's very sad, I think, for a lot of people. I mean, I was saddened for a lot of people, a lot of members of our team. But it just tells me, you know what? Speculation is people will do a lot of things for a lot of wrong reasons, and whether it's money or whatever the case may be. But this is such a desperate tactic, I speculate, because the fact that he ran all these campaigns, he ran campaigns against Mike Hubbard, all these entities had a full shop. And if anybody on this set before was more adamantly opposed to Mike Hubbard, and even on his radio show, was Mr. Baron Coleman. And it is very ironic to me that in November, he all of a sudden left the show here. I think I speculate that that's by design. And then all of a sudden, if you'd been listening to News and Views in the last 6 weeks or so, he really didn't have much to say about Mr. Hubbard. Now, that same scenario has happened with another radio guy here in the past. Mm-hmm. And might I say, people like us, whether you're newscasters or whatever, or you're just lobbyists or people, let me kind of back up to the viewers. You know, when Don Sigelman was prosecuted and all, I was a contract lobbyist at that time too. I had a partner that was involved in that. I'm the one that received all the documentations. I went to the investigators and I went to lawyers in the Attorney General's office. I handed all that information over to them. Did they ever discuss with me what went on in the grand jury? Absolutely not. Nor would they do that. And I just say, having worked there in that office under two men, that they would never do that. I've worked with Matt Hart. I respect him. He was a military guy, Army, in the JAG. He has high standards. He's worked in the U.S. Attorney's office. And I just smell a rat in the woodpile. I don't care how you shake the stick.
Yeah.
Well, you know, back in September when he was subpoenaed the first time, he filed a motion to quash that subpoena, saying he had nothing to add to the case. What has changed between now and then is anybody's guess.
Well, he also said that the defense was executing a improper, and I think there was another word he used.
Impermissible, I think it was.
Impermissible fishing expedition. But Beth, it was shocked us all, I think.
People are kind of wondering what's happened and what has made this turn of events. And I don't know a whole lot about the criminal side of this, but I would think that using that information would be just as impermissible as receiving that information. So I would hope that, you know, whoever has messed up here and whoever has done wrong, that justice is served across the board.
And I hope it doesn't harm people that
Who are
in the
related to
satellite
this.
here that really didn't have anything to do
Well, I
with
think
that.
interesting. You know, Barron never accused Matt Hart of prosecutorial misconduct. Just to be clear, the prosecutorial misconduct, as ordered by Judge Walker, has to reach the standard of Nova Scotia versus the U.S. Bank of Nova Scotia versus the U.S. And the Supreme Court found in that case to have prosecutorial misconduct, the prosecutors must have committed acts, or their misconduct had to materially affect the outcome of the grand jury. So Judge Walker has said in court that anything that happened had to happen inside the confines of the grand jury room. Baron Coleman may have been a witness or maybe called to the grand jury, I don't know, but he wasn't in the grand jury room. So this did not materially influence.
And this campaign that he ran with Sandy Toomer against Mike Hubbard was not in the grand jury room. I'm sorry.
Right. It was out there amongst the voters.
Exactly.
It should have been. I mean, it saddens me because he was a colleague and used to sit where you were. I mean, I don't think by what he's done, he's killed all credibility he might have had with anybody in any shape, form, or fashion.
Well, and that's an opinion of a lot of folks. You know, it's hard to say.
I mean, I've probably been on the show with Barron, 5 times total, and didn't know him well before that. I've never in my life spoken to Matt Hart, so it'll be interesting to see how this all kind of shakes out.
Hart
Hopefully,
is a tough operator. I'm sorry, I didn't.
Right, I'm saying that hopefully, you know, it all shakes out. And
well, as somebody posted on Facebook the other day, it said, "Hey, prosecutors talk to the public. They talk to anybody they want to all the time, or we wouldn't know about most of these crimes."
Well, and they couldn't gather half of their information. And think back. Y'all might remember the 2-year college system. I mean, Mr. Hart and AG's office have a rough time during that 2-year college system.
Well,
and this is tougher than that, so they can stand their ground.
We want to see this trial go forward. March 28th, we want to see Hart and Hubbard in Lee County. You've been watching The V because we watch them. Thank you for joining us.